Hello, welcome to the first year diploma course of Guru Nanak Institute of Technology, Kolkata. I'm Dr. Indrajit Bose and I should be your course coordinator for this session. This paper is entitled Communicative English and it is based upon the forms, genres, and modes of spoken and written communication in the workplace. I think all of you are aware that once you pass out of this course, you'll be joining the industry, and there you will be engaged in spoken and written interactions in English in the field of business and commerce. So, to facilitate these workplace interactions employing English, we have got this paper with various modules in writing, speaking, and different aspects of business, paperwork, and correspondence. So you will learn all about the official formats, about writing, about speaking, pronunciation, and various other aspects which will be important for you in the workplace or in the workday world. This is a lecture 3 in the series from the first unit, where we are talking about reading comprehension and about identifying and locating specific information in a text. Now, before I begin, I would like to begin with an example. Let us say that you are reading an interesting article in the newspaper. Now, how do you read that article? Possibly, if you are rushed for time, you quickly skim through the article or you run your eyes through the text so that you can get the gist of what the article is about. If you have a little more time in your hands, then maybe you read the headings or headlines and then you slowly browse through the article and you get the gist of it. How do you understand or assimilate the different points that are covered in the article? Obviously, it takes time to assimilate it, and there are various points, there are various items of information contained in the article which your mind registers one after the other or at the same time, perhaps. So you assimilate that. Again, you might possibly inquire about certain things or ask questions about what you're reading yourself in the process of assimilating and understanding. This questioning, or almost it's a kind of self questioning rather, because you yourself are reading, this process of self questioning tends to further the process of understanding and engagement with the text. So, we are going to see and explore in today's lecture how, with different texts, we can absorb and understand and locate the key information contained in these texts. So, let us begin. Now, begin with what is the purpose of reading? Obviously, the purposes of reading will vary, and for different texts, we have different purposes. For an informative text, we are trying to discover some information, or we want some information, like, for example, with a manual which is given for a vacuum cleaner, we are looking for specific information of how to drive and to use that vacuum cleaner. With a mixer grinder, again with the manual, we are looking for that sort of information itself. On the other hand, if I'm reading a comic book on a railway journey, the purpose of my reading is not to gain information but to entertain myself or to keep myself amused or entertained throughout the course of the journey. Again, if I'm reading a novel, for example, I might be interested in the development of character and plot. If I'm reading a suspense thriller, then I'm more interested in how the action is developing over time. So the purposes of reading might vary, and obviously the style of different kinds of writing will vary, and how writers write, that is also different. And there are different kinds of prose actually that we read. Sometimes we read informative or expository prose. At other times we read descriptive prose. Sometimes also we read narrative prose or sometimes poetic prose. So we read different kinds of texts, but the way in which we locate the information might seem to be similar in different cases. Let us see the ways in which we can register and locate the information contained in the texts. Now, I'm going to look at various texts. Look at this text, for example. This is a prose excerpt from an informative text. Let me read the text out first. Rock climbing, whitewater rafting, and skydiving used to be considered dangerous sports, suitable for only a few bold people, the unusually fit. Not so today, but it is common for families to take up such activities. Why do people want to take part in dangerous activities? Some experts say it's the innate human desire to test the limits of their courage and physical abilities. Sports psychologist Frank Farley of Temple University in Philadelphia calls people who do dangerous sports type T people. They are thrill seekers and risk takers. Farley has been studying such people for 35 years. Now, what exactly is this passage about? If I read the passage, or if I just skim through the passage and look at the first lines of the different paragraphs, rock climbing, whitewater rafting, skydiving, the names of various adventure sports kind of hits the eye with impact because they are contained in the very first line of the first paragraph. Then the first line of the second paragraph is equally revealing. Why do people want to take part in dangerous activities? And in the third paragraph, the first line is sports psychologist Frank Farley of Temple University in Philadelphia calls people who do dangerous sports type T people. So, examples of adventure sports, people taking part in dangerous activities, and a psychologist talking about people engaging in dangerous sports. Now, how dangerous are these dangerous sports? Of course, they are sports, so they are different kinds of games or sports events, really. And taking part in them is a sporting activity. But however, they are regarded as dangerous because there is element of danger over there in all these sports, whether it be skydiving or whitewater rafting or rock climbing, because the element of danger is there and there might be a threat to life and security contained in these sports themselves without any other kind of outward interference. So they are therefore referred to as dangerous activities or sports. But still, as the author over here says, that there are many people who still want to go in for these sports. So this is quite paradoxical, isn't it? So we ask the question. So let's see. Suppose I start framing questions to myself. These are dangerous sports. There is an element of danger over there. You might lose life if you engage in these sports. Yet people do take part in these sports still. So they are regarded as great activities, and if you excel in them, then it's regarded as a superlative achievement. So why are people still interested in them? Possibly the reason might be that people are going to get a psychological thrill or a kick out of it. Their participation gives them that sort of a thrill. Okay, this is what a psychologist has been saying. So this is a valuable input given by a psychologist, Frank Farley of Temple University, who has been studying people like this for 35 years, which is a very long span of time. Now, what we have over here, yes, I have noted the points. The names of these sports, which are full of risk, adventure, or danger. Then something about the people who engage in them. They are bold people or they are risk takers. And what exactly are the words which are repeated? So that if we look at the lines again carefully, or we reread the lines, we find that there are words like dangerous, risky, thrill, courage, which are repeated in the course of the paragraphs. Now, these words, which recur again and again in the paragraphs, are called keywords. They contain important suggestions and they betoken the main theme or idea, which here is about risk taking in sports. So, some sports might be life threatening, so to speak, but in spite of that, the element of adventure and thrill which is there in these sports inspires many bold people, people who are especially courageous and willing to take risks, to take up or to undertake these sports. So that is what appears. So the idea is it might be dangerous, but this danger itself is an attraction for people who are risk takers or for people who are willing enough to risk their lives and everything else in order to win success in these sporting adventures. So, this is what the passage is about. So, if we look at the passage, this is the first one that I'm considering. Basically, we will find that the author is trying to say that uh, previously, because he's saying they used to be considered. Previously, there was the common idea that these sports were very dangerous. So people used to think that they were only for a select few or for people who are unusually fit. But that is not so today because many more people are flocking to these sports, or many more people are taking up these adventure sports. Now, according to experts, and the author is questioning why is it that they are doing so. So, according to experts, it's the innate human desire to test the limits of their courage and endurance. And according to a well-known psychologist who has been studying these people engaged in sporting action for many years, it is the psychology of these people because they are thrill seekers and risk takers, because they are rather the kind of people who will be willing enough to take risks and who deliberately seek to get these thrills, which other people or people who are normal or ordinary people perhaps, they are sort of unwilling or they might be shying back from taking such risks. So this is what the passage is about, and this is what the author is trying to say. So if we locate the keywords contained in the passage, if we read the first lines of each of the paragraphs, then try to locate the keywords, we get a better clue to the understanding of the central ideas contained in the passage. Okay? And then we can ask questions about what are these activities, questions like what are these activities, why do people want to take part in these dangerous activities, why are they dangerous, what do the experts say, what do the psychologists say, and so on. Now, uh, part of this whole process of skimming the passage would be the underlining of the keywords. So that when you sit down to engage with a reading passage of this type, then please keep a pen or pencil ready with you in your hand so that you can start underlining as soon as you are reading the text or engaging with the text. While reading, try to identify the different keywords in the paragraphs. If you read it just once or twice carefully, you might be able to locate the keywords. So when you locate the keywords, please underline them in the paragraphs. And also underline other important factual details, like often we have things like people's names or the names of places, then dates, locations, and various facts and figures, like the population census for Madrid in 2017 was 23 million, like this. So different kinds of facts and figures. Now the names of people, uh, the various names of people like scientists, inventors, other kinds of people involved in the story, so they might figure out locations like particular place names, I mean years or dates, they might all figure, and also figures. So you can also mark out any word or phrase which is capitalized or italicized, like the titles of books or the names of events like the Olympics and so on. So basically, information for searching for information contained in a text, it is best to try and locate all the important place names, people's names, dates, facts, statistics, and other details like the proper nouns, for example. So they will help us to identify readily what is the specific information contained in the text. And after that, we can try and engage with the text by asking various questions. Okay. Let us now look at another piece of text. Um, this is a different kind of text. Let me first read the text. Feel safe in any hotel room anywhere. Okay. Feel safer in any hotel room anywhere. The new Praxis security and surveillance system works 24/7 as your protector. Apart from triple locks on doors and windows, there are X-ray scanners installed at all vital locations. All entry and exit routes are monitored. There are surveillance cameras installed in the lounge, lobby, dining room, and above all, balconies. There are alarms for fire and break-ins which automatically go off if there is any threat to security. There are smoke detectors which beep signals if any fires start. The whole system has a central monitoring unit which alerts security. Okay, so what is the passage really about? It is talking about, very simply, the need for security and surveillance, and that too not just at home, or it's not just about home security, but security in a public building or in a place where one goes to visit or live, like a hotel room. Okay, so hotel room is a public place. It is a place not in one's own house. So it's in the public. It's not in the private domain. So this question of security over there is very important. If there is any breach of security in a place like a hotel, then it endangers the safety of all the guests who are there. So that's very, very risky. Now, the author is talking about a security and surveillance system over here, and the various components of that system are specified. Now, let me just read it once more. Feel safer in any hotel room anywhere. People generally tend to feel insecure in hotel rooms because they are on their own in the first thing. And the second thing is that they are alone in a strange place. They may not know much about the hotel. So what kind of security might be offered by them in case there is any problem of any kind or disturbance of any kind would be quite doubtful. Okay? So because people are worried, there's this question of security, and this security system works 24/7, providing different kinds of security, and all the elements are mentioned. Now, I'm just reading once again. The new Praxis security and surveillance system works 24/7 as your protector. So that is there. Apart from triple locks on doors and windows, there are X-ray scanners installed at vital locations. All entry and exit routes are monitored. So the important way that the security system works is by having not only triple locks on doors and windows, but also X-ray scanners installed at various locations, and all entry and exit routes being monitored. There are surveillance cameras installed in the lounge, lobby, dining room, and above all, balconies. So all important locations in the hotel are marked out. There are alarms for fire and break-ins which automatically go off if there is any threat to security. Okay, so fire alarms, alarms for fire and break-ins, okay, which automatically go off if there is any threat to security. There are smoke detectors which beep signals if any fires start. So you have smoke detectors as well, will go off beeping as soon as any fires start. The whole system has a central monitoring unit which alerts security. So the central monitoring unit can contact with the security personnel directly in case there's any breach or violation of safety or security. Okay. Now, security surveillance, these are the keywords which are repeated, and important keywords which are repeated are safe, security, surveillance, protection, scanning, signals, and fire. Now they appear in all the sections, and certain basic questions we can ask ourselves about is, what is the passage about? How will safety be ensured, and how does the system work? So suppose we try to answer these questions on our own. What is the passage about? The passage is about the features of the new praxis security and surveillance system. Now, the second question is, how will safety be ensured? The safety will be ensured because not only is there triple locking for doors and windows, but cameras are installed everywhere, but that um, in the lounge, lobby, dining room, uh, and balconies, there are surveillance cameras installed everywhere. Okay? And there are alarms for fire and break-ins, okay, which are there, and smoke detectors in crucial locations. So the whole system is monitored centrally by a central monitoring unit, which will provide an alert to security once there is any breach or violation of security. So that is how the system works. System works through scanners, through locks and cameras, and it works through a central monitoring unit, which can give a direct alert to security. Okay, so that was another way in which we can collect and gather and retrieve the information which is given to us in a passage. Now, I'm looking at a different passage, a third one, and here, obviously, this is a different kind of prose. Let me see if you can tell me where it is taken from or what kind of prose it is taken from. Now, I'm reading the passage. Mrs. Warren closed the door. It was dark outside. She shivered and pulled her shawl closer around her. It was warm inside the room. The table lamp shed a cheerful glow on the table, the room, and everything in it. She pulled the curtains across the window. Thank God for central heating. It was bitterly cold outside, and the wind was howling. That was the worst of living by the sea. Lovely in summer, but terrible in winter. On some winter days, she hardly saw the sun, and everything remained covered in a grey mist. But living here had been her choice. It had been the one dream in her life to live in a place of her choice, somewhere away from the city. The idea of having this cottage had warmed her on many freezing, dreary winter mornings as she commuted to work at the public library at Sun City. She had made plans as she worked away at her computer or prepared book lists or sent reminders to people for overdue books. This was her home now, a little cottage in Merton-on-Sea, and she loved it. She had the sea and sand and the gulls for company. This bit of shoreline was all her own. She could sit on her front veranda for hours, gazing at the heat haze on the sea and the distant fishing boats. So basically, what is happening in this paragraph? So there is a quest for comfort and security over here. Security is of a different kind, obviously, than the security in the previous unit that we were looking at. So that's a security system, surveillance system. This one is different. It's about personal preference and comfort with one's choice. Now, what is Mrs. Warren's choice? Mrs. Warren's choice is basically to live alone by the sea in a cottage. Now, she has presumably lived in a big city, so she's tired of living in a big city, and she has dreamt about, this kind of an isolated life close to nature in a cottage by the sea for many years. So it has actually been an inspiration for her throughout these many years. And she has wanted basically a living place of her choice. So she did not want to continue to live in the city after retirement. She wanted a place in nature or close to nature by the seashore. And she found it. She was actually in the public library at Sun City, but she worked over there, and possibly she saved up for it, and she has bought a small cottage by the seashore, and this is her home at Merton on the Sea. And she loves it. She has only the sun and sand and seagulls for company, and she sits on the veranda gazing at the heat haze on the water. So basically, she has wanted a small place of her own in the country or close to the seashore, and she has got it. So she is happy and contented now. This is what the passage is basically trying to say. Now, the basic ideas and the words which are repeated a number of times are comfort and warmth. So warmth and comfort and warmth, they are very much tied up with one another, and they are very much repeated in the passage. Now, the key words or phrases which are repeated are cold, warm, comfort, sea, shore, and sand. They appear in all the sections. Now, the questions that we can ask ourselves are, what is the passage about? The passage is about the choice of a place of her own, away from the hustle and bustle of the city, that was made by Mrs. Warren. That is the main substance of the passage. Now, what does Mrs. Warren feel? Again, go back to the passage. Yes, Mrs. Warren feels that it is actually very nice in the summer, but in the winter, when you have the sea storms and gales, then the bad weather makes life over there very much difficult and unbearable. So that's what she's talking about. She's seeking the comfort of her cottage room out of the storm outside, which is raging outside, when she comes in at the beginning of this passage. Now, however, on the whole, she is pretty much happy and satisfied living this isolated life of her own in this cottage by the sea at a place called Merton on Sea, because it has sustained her, and this has been her dream for many years standing. And she has worked in the public library at Sun City and saved up money for this uh, this place to live in after her retirement. And now that she's retired, she spends a peaceful and isolated life living by the sea and gazing at the sea for hours on end. So this is what the passage is about. What was her dream? The dream was to have a place of her own close to nature. And has she realized her dream? Yes, she has realized her dream to a great extent, and she has got a place by the sea to live in. Okay. So this is the second passage. Now we look at another passage and how we are going to get information over there. We are not unduly worried about the future. We should be, however, very worried, as we are fast using up our coal, petroleum, and natural gas reserves. We are riding faster cars, living in air-conditioned houses, or those with efficient central heating. Coking coal is still one of the biggest energy sources driving our thermal power plants. Pollution is slowly choking us to death. Carbon emissions, CFCs, and destruction of the ozone layer are all taking their toll. Who knows what dark days the future will bring? So wherein lies hope? In the utilization of nuclear power, of solar and wind energy, of course. Wind turbines are already powering whole semi-urban townships in Germany and the Netherlands. Solar-powered cookers are functioning efficiently in the villages of Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh. We are already using CNG autos in the Indian metropolis. So what exactly is this passage about? The passage is basically talking about energy resources and all about renewable and non-renewable energy sources. Now, the non-renewable energy sources which we use extensively and which we are exhausting are coking coal and petroleum and natural gas. Also, there is a lot mentioned about pollution in the passage, pollution that comes from carbon emissions, CFCs, and destruction of the ozone layer. Now, the sources which are mentioned as those which sustain us for the future are nuclear power, solar, and wind energy. Right, so these are the points in the passage, and it's talking about solar powered cookers in Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, CNG autos in Indian metropolises, and wind turbines generating electricity in semi-urban townships in Germany and the Netherlands. So we have really come a long way in the uses of renewable energy. And the author is trying to make a point that we need to develop, sustain, and innovate more different power sources which are driven by energy sources which are renewable, not deplete or exhaust our non-renewable energy sources like petroleum or natural gas or coal further. Okay, so the words which are repeated are energy, reserves, future, power, efficiency. Basically, the author in the passage is considered considering the use of alternative energy sources compared to petroleum, natural gas, or coal and other reserves like that. So basically, it is about alternative energy solutions, and the passage is about that, about the view that we are depleting our reserves of the non-renewable resources, so we should turn elsewhere for the future. The hope for the future will only lie in the utilization of our renewable sources of energy. Now, what is happening in the world around us? In the world around us, like in Germany, for example, or the Netherlands, people are using wind turbines to generate power. So that is a great innovation. So we have to make use of that also. Have alternative sources of energy emerged in a significant way? Yes, alternative sources of energy have emerged in a somewhat significant way, with nuclear power being used in various practical applications, solar powered cookers being used even in the obscure rural areas of Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan in India, and uh, also the different kinds of wind turbines powering electricity in the Netherlands and Germany. So these are some of the points, and they are repeated in the passage so that we are basically able to get the idea or grasp the idea that the passage is talking about the development of energy, and particularly about conserving our remaining resources or the reserves of the non-renewable energy sources, and try to carry on exploration so that we can renew and we can develop our renewable energy sources further. Now, when we get any passage with information, then we have to scan that passage basically, and we have to ask for specific information like who, why, what, when, how, and so on. So please scan the passage first, then ask questions like read and identify the keywords and the themes in the passage, and note the important points contained in the passage in the margin in pencil jotting. Prediction and note-taking, as a matter of fact, are important strategies as keys to understanding what the passage is about or about the passage's content. So try to predict from the information that you are given of what the passage is really about, and also take notes. Note-taking is a valuable strategy, so also take notes of important points as much as possible, and compare with the textual questions which are asked about that text. And obviously, we can say that our preliminary reading of the text is crucial to an understanding of the text. So, the more thorough and intensive our preliminary reading is, the better will be our ultimate understanding of the text. So, I hope that with the help of this lecture, you are able to understand better the different strategies we can use in order to be engaged fully and to derive information from reading passages, particularly about the information contained in the passage and the point of view of the author as far as the passage is concerned. So we'll be talking more about the different kinds of questions which pertain to reading comprehension. With this, for the time being, I would like to end my lecture. So here I take my leave, and we will meet again with more topics and more lectures to come. Thank you.